For a span of 4 years, my partner and I shared a life together. In our early 30s, sans the pattering of tiny feet. There were certain intricacies that we struggled to unravel, particularly in the realm of intimacy. I implored her to seek therapy, for I could sense her grappling with her emotions and the art of articulating them. But alas, fear held her back. The last time our lips met was in the midst of July, but the spark had long since dissipated. From that moment, a shift in attitude became palpable, with an unshakable distance and impatience taking hold. 2 weeks hence, we ventured out for a night of revelry with friends, but to my surprise, she brought her boss along. The initial encounter with the gentleman in question was completely new to me, and during our brief conversation, he remarked that I appeared to be quite amicable. However, as fate would have it, we ended up being on opposing teams due to his affection for my girlfriend. Naturally, I felt compelled to broach the topic with my significant other, and to my surprise, she seemed taken aback by the suggestion and assured me that there was no cause for concern. Nevertheless, her behavior towards me became increasingly aloof and even hostile at times. Despite my best efforts to communicate with her and resolve any underlying issues, she would become irate and even go so far as to accuse me of fabricating the entire situation. In an attempt to salvage our relationship, I made a concerted effort to spend more quality time with her, but it seemed as though her mind was elsewhere during our outings. During our much-awaited holiday trip, my significant other confided in me about her lack of emotions during our last kiss and her absence of desire for me. She made it clear that this did not signify the end of our relationship. We both agreed to have a more in-depth discussion after our vacation. Upon returning home, I noticed a shift in her behavior as she became more engrossed with her phone and engaged in activities that excluded me. Despite these changes, she remained in denial about the situation. On a Friday, she sent me a text message stating that she was going out for a beer with her boss. When I questioned her about it, she merely retorted, "Do you want me to ask for your permission? It's just a casual drink." It was a devastating blow when my girlfriend broke up with me, just 2 days after we had a huge argument. I was desperate to salvage our relationship and suggested that we try couples therapy to work through our issues together. In addition, I recommended that she seek therapy on her own to deal with any personal challenges that may have contributed to our problems. To my surprise, my girlfriend began to have second thoughts about the breakup and expressed a willingness to find a therapist. Just as I thought we might be able to reconcile, I couldn't help but ask her if there was someone else in her life. It was a gut instinct that proved to be true when she admitted to texting her boss frequently. Apparently, he had been flirting with her and it had boosted her ego. To make matters worse, he had even invited her to join him on a lavish holiday in Croatia in October. Despite her initial denial of any plans to attend, I couldn't help but feel angry and betrayed by her actions. I still wanted to believe in her and hoped that we could work things out. It was a difficult time, but I remained committed to our relationship and held on to the hope that we could overcome this hurdle together. The next day, after the emotional upheaval of the previous evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about my girlfriend's story just didn't add up. Despite her assurances that there was nothing going on between her and her boss, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. So I did what any rational person would do. I checked her messenger. To my utter shock and dismay, I discovered that my worst fears were true. My girlfriend had been engaging in a full-blown affair with her boss. She had confided in her 2 closest friends, detailing every sordid detail of the illicit relationship. Apparently, it had been going on for a month, during which time they had kissed each other on several occasions and gone on numerous dates. She had been the one to initiate all of the dates and kisses. She had even considered the possibility that it was just a temporary crush and had wanted to see where it would lead. But in the end, her feelings for him had proved too strong to resist. As I read through the messages, my heart sank. I felt betrayed and hurt beyond words. How could she have done this to me? As I scrolled through the messages my girlfriend had sent to her friends, my heart sank even further. It was clear that her affair with her boss was not just a one-time mistake, but something that had been building for some time. In fact, she had been actively pursuing him, sending messages that hinted at a desire for intimacy. She had even gone so far as to suggest that it would be a shame if they didn't have intimacy, and had seriously considered going with him on the trip they had planned. They had made out in his car, outside of her flat, and even at work. It was clear that my girlfriend was completely caught up in the excitement of the situation, bragging to her friends about finally having a romance at work type of story. As I read through the messages, my view of my girlfriend shattered. She seemed to be acting like a teenager experiencing her first crush, completely oblivious to the fact that her actions were hurting me deeply. It was a painful realization. As I continued to read through my girlfriend's messages, I felt a growing sense of disgust towards her friends. It was clear that they were not only aware of her affair with her boss, but were actively encouraging her to pursue it. Even when my girlfriend had to cancel a date with her boss because of my aunt's death, her friends were more concerned with the fact that she wouldn't be able to see him than they were with my loss. They told her to take what she could from this and not to tell me about it. To make matters worse, I had even helped my girlfriend buy a gift for her boss on her trip, thinking it was for her friend. I felt like a fool for being so blind to what was really going on, but what really hurt was the way her friends cheered her on, telling her how much they envied her and how exciting it all was. They even offered to cover for her so she could go to Croatia with her boss, knowing full well that it was a betrayal of our relationship. Not once did her friends mention the fact that what she was doing was wrong, or that she could lose her job if anyone found out. Instead, they egged her on, encouraging her to pursue the relationship with her boss at any cost. What's more, I saw firsthand how my girlfriend had been manipulating the situation to her advantage. She had written to her friends that the breakup with me was probably a mistake and that we would most likely get back together soon, but that she needed therapy to figure things out. Meanwhile, she had set up a meeting with her boss just 4 days after our breakup, clearly indicating that her feelings for him were still very much alive. As I reflected on everything that had happened, I realized that it wasn't the physical aspects of the affair that hurt the most. It was the lies and manipulations that had been going on behind my back. How could my girlfriend have been so callous and uncaring, willing to throw away our relationship for the excitement of a new fling? As I processed everything that had happened, I couldn't help but feel a sense of disbelief at the cruelty of my girlfriend's actions. It was hard to reconcile the person I thought I knew with the one I had seen in those messages. Part of me wanted to believe that she was just lost and confused, and that the decision to go to therapy was a genuine attempt to make things right. As I read through the messages again, it became clear that so much of what she had done and said had been calculated and deliberate. She had been willing to lie and manipulate me in order to pursue her own desires without a second thought for the pain and hurt she was causing. On the evening of D-Day, my girlfriend came to me in tears, asking if we could talk because she felt like the breakup was a huge mistake. I told her that we could talk in 2 days, after I had a chance to gather my thoughts and see my therapist. I also made it clear that I wanted to get all of my things out of her apartment before that, so that I could have some space to process everything that had happened. Despite the tumultuous end to our relationship, a part of me still held on to the love I had for her. I yearned for her to see the error of her ways and fight for our union. However, as much as I clung to this hope, I knew deep down that there was no turning back from the chaos that had ensued. The memories of our downfall would forever be etched in my mind. While I didn't believe she was entirely malevolent, I was appalled by the discovery of a repugnant aspect of her character. I was desperate to understand the reasoning behind her actions, and I prayed that she would reveal the truth to me during what was likely to be our final conversation. Upon our meeting, she expressed uncertainty about her emotions and desires, noting that she required time to comprehend them with the help of a therapist. I admitted to her that I had read her texts and questioned why she hadn't disclosed the truth to me, despite multiple opportunities to do so. Her response was that she had refrained from doing so to avoid hurting me and out of shame. I saw this as an excuse and became enraged, as she had planned to confess after we reconciled, which I found unacceptable. I made it clear that I wouldn't have wanted to repair our relationship had I known the truth. At times when questioned about specific details, she became defensive. She attempted to downplay the situation, sharing that she had felt desired and excited that something was finally happening. However, she concluded that it wasn't worth it. In the end, she stated that she didn't truly mean some of the things she had written. She had no interest in engaging in sexual activity with him or going on the trip. In fact, she wasn't even sure if she liked him. When I asked her why I should believe her over what I had seen with my own eyes, she admitted that she didn't know why she had written those things and felt ashamed. Furthermore, she acknowledged that her actions were the biggest mistake of her life. She expressed remorse for causing me pain and regretted not seeking therapy sooner. She believed that I deserved someone better than her. She felt like trash for the hurt she had caused me. I found myself nodding in agreement as she apologized for her actions. I couldn't help but ask how she could have been so foolish as to jeopardize her job and our relationship. Her response was that it was no longer my concern. Despite the gravity of the situation, I couldn't help but notice the misery etched on her face. I expressed my profound disappointment and confessed that I no longer recognized the person standing before me. She admitted that she felt the same way, but was resolute in her determination to discover who she truly was during her therapy sessions. As I probed about the possibility of repairing our relationship, she confessed that it was highly unlikely. I concluded our conversation by stating that I wasn't certain if I would ever be able to forgive her. Nevertheless, I hoped that her therapy sessions would provide her with the answers she was seeking. And with that, I left. It was undoubtedly the most challenging conversation I had ever had. In the end, I didn't receive the answers I had hoped for, and what I did receive was disappointing and insincere. It pained me that she hadn't been truthful, even when I had confronted her. I was upset with myself for wanting to mend things despite the betrayal I had suffered. Even after a week, I find myself grappling with these thoughts. I recognize that it's naive to want to be loved by someone who has caused me so much pain. It's a foolish notion, and I hope that these feelings will dissipate sooner rather than later. I understand that I should focus on myself and strive to improve my life, but it's challenging to move on. I'm consumed by anger and jealousy, knowing that the affair is probably still ongoing, and she's enjoying her time with someone else while the wreckage of our relationship is still fresh and I'm left to suffer. The emotional toll of losing both your home and partner while grappling with the sense of betrayal can be utterly overwhelming at times. In the aftermath of my ordeal, numerous people suggested that I should report the affair to HR at her company and expose her actions to all her friends and family. While I can understand the reasoning behind such actions, I have sought guidance from my therapist, who has advised me to consider whether such a course of action would genuinely aid my healing process or merely exacerbate my pain. After much contemplation, I have resolved to take the necessary steps to report her affair because I believe it will provide me with a sense of closure and help me move on from the pain she has inflicted upon me. At this point, my main priority is to focus on my healing process, and I firmly believe that reporting her affair is the best course of action for me. I've come to realize that I feel better when I don't dwell on thoughts of her and our failed relationship. As part of my healing, I've decided to inform her parents and our close mutual friends about the affair. My intention is to ensure that she doesn't attempt to manipulate the narrative of what happened to suit her interests. I know that this may not be an easy path to take, but I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to move forward and heal from this traumatic experience.